Okay, so today we have a special topic and speaker. This is the third class of our 4-week Wellness Wednesday peer-led month. The first week I led recipes, all recipes that were in my microgreen smoothie book. The second week we had Jamie, who led how to be plant-based long term. And today we have Eva, who is going to be leading a class about her story and her wellness journey, and also sharing books. When I also encourage all of you to post in the comments the books that have had an impact on your life and that have somehow inspired you, and even share while you're brainstorming and writing how it inspired you and how it impacted you, because there certainly are many more weeks to come and we want to hear from you too. And after this week, next week we have, I believe, more of a sharing class, and then after that I'm going to make it be that once a month is this town hall where we come together and we brainstorm what the following weeks are going to be. So to take ownership, those who come, that like think about what you might want to share. And this is one of them. Definitely a good one is like books that you learned. So without further ado, Eva is someone who did my cleanse recently, so she's definitely a well-versed person in this program in our community. And I'm very excited to hear your experience and your journey with wellness and your vast experience. So I'm going to turn it over to you, and that's that.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Now
Hi.
let's go. Host has disabled participant screen sharing.
Oh, I didn't do that. Did it say that just now?
Yes.
Okay. Then I will just make you the host. How about that for now? You can do that.
Oh, I'm the host now. Hi, everybody. So I practiced this. I want it to be interesting and not boring. And I want it to be helpful and not controversial. Okay. So this is the book resource share. I'm going to do it like this because I like being able to see the slides. Okay. Can you see this? Does this work for you?
Yeah, looks great.
Okay. This is about me and the books I met and how they contributed to my journey. When I thought about this process, I was terrified that people were going to be angry because they always say you shouldn't discuss religion or politics with people that you want to stay friends with. And it's my experience that a lot of people, diet is really important to them. It's kind of like politics and religion. So I want to say at first that my intention is not to advocate anything or any theory or any book, but to show a path. What I learned from reading all of these books is that it comes very clear to me that correlation is not necessarily cause, that you do an experiment, you examine your variables and you look at your results, but you can only draw a conclusion based on what you're actually looking at. If the real variable is something you didn't consider, or the real result is something that you can't see, that really changes everything. And that's now how I look at this stuff. This is the first book that really did something to me. I'm sure I learned about food in school, but it meant nothing to me. Somebody gave me a juice man machine, and my mother had this book in her house, but she didn't have the juice machine. So to me, this is a miracle. It just came to me. Jay Kordich was an athlete, and at the age of 25, he was diagnosed with a terminal bladder cancer. He did a lot of research to heal himself, and he discovered Dr. Max Gerson and Gerson therapy, which is also a plant-based therapy for healing. And he said he healed himself by drinking a lot of carrot juice. This book introduced me to the concept of food as a healing tool. According to Jay, he was all about organic, raw sprouts, enzymes, wheatgrass, cook less, drink more juice. He advocated the avoidance of meat and dairy, eggs, fats, processed foods, and sugars and flours. He did advocate the calories in, calories out theory of weight loss. And the reason that you lose weight when you juice is because you're getting all your nutrition, but you're not eating a lot of calories. This book has a lot of recipes in it, and it lists all fruits and vegetables and all the nutrients that are in them. And then it has a list of nutrients and all the fruits and vegetables that contain those nutrients. It is very interesting and was published in 1993. This opened my eyes. The next book that came into my life was Back to Eden, where Jethro Kloss, this is a very old book. It was first published in 1935. It has kind of an old-timey feel to it. It's really thick. It's got a lot of stories, a lot of recipes.
Yeah.
Basically, Jethro Kloss was saying that food, bad food, processed food, overcooked food will kill you. Foods as God made them are perfect. And when you mess with it, the food does not nourish you, but it makes you very sick. He was a self-trained healer. He ran several sanitariums, and he was a Seventh-day Adventist, which I didn't know, but recently found out that a big pillar of their religion is eating. And their founder, Ellen G. White, wrote extensively on diet. And particularly, she wrote that grains, fruits, nuts, and vegetables constitute the diet chosen for us by our Creator. So he came from that background. He advocated oatmeal. He thought oatmeal was the greatest thing in the world. Soy and fresh raw vegetables. He was very much against overcooked food and processed flours and sugars and meat and dairy and eggs and fermented food, pepper and vinegar. You know, in his defense, this is what he said about fermented food. Spoiled food is bad for you. So in his mind, fermented food was spoiled, so therefore it must be bad. The man was, education was very different. He wasn't a chemist. He wasn't a doctor. I'm going to give him a pass. I mean, I disagree with him there, but that's where he was coming from. The book has a lot of like old-timey recipes for plasters and liniments and other things that you can make at home to heal yourself. And the last thing I want to say about this, because it relates to things that happen later, is that I recently found out that the Seventh-day Adventist community in Loma Linda, California, is one of the blue zones where people consistently live to be over 100 years old. I didn't know that, but I know it now.
Yes, I heard that
And
before.
they are very much
Okay.
plant-based. Rational Wiki says he's a quack, and the book has been dismissed as quackery by medical experts. Well, maybe it has. It is also my observation that medical experts don't believe in anything that's natural. If it's not a drug, they're going to turn their nose up at it. So you can take that information and do whatever you like with it, but I think it's a really interesting historical book. And then I found Stanley Burroughs and the Master Cleanser. Stanley Burroughs is another self-taught healer. He worked in vaudeville. He studied color therapy. And he was really into healing people with color therapy, which is shining a light on the skin to heal. He had a lot of success with this, according to him, but it didn't work for stomach ulcers. It took 6 months to heal stomach ulcers. He claims that in a moment of divine inspiration, he got this recipe come to him: fresh lemon juice, maple syrup, cayenne pepper, and water. This is what you're going to do to heal people's stomach ulcers. He claims that he tested it and it worked. And not only did it work, but the people that he was giving it to were telling him that other things that were bothering them were going away. So he called it the Master Cleanser. His theory is that a compromised immune system and poor health allows illness to set in, that attacks from germs and viruses do not overpower a healthy immune response. He advocates, again, live, natural, unprocessed food because of the enzymes that are necessary. He was against processed, unnatural food, including acid-forming food and mucus-forming food, such as meats and finely ground flours and other things. He's also against honey, which I'm not quite understand that, but he's also against antibiotics because they kill the good gut bacteria. The cleanse is basically a 10-day diet of this lemonade. And what it does, according to him, is it removes buildup in your intestines. So if you're eating a whole bunch of really bad stuff that you can't digest, it gunks up the lining of your intestine. This will break that film off and restore the cleanliness of your gut lining. And your gut is the seat of, or a key part of, your immune system. The other part of the cleanse is that he claims it provides all nourishment needed without expending energy and resources for digestion, so your body can use all that energy to heal and repair whatever needs healing and repairing. I included this other book by Tom Wollersheim because Tom met Stanley and was a student of his. This book, The Complete Master Cleanse, is a really helpful guide if you want to do it. I tried the Master Cleanse and I couldn't do it. When I read Tom's book, it really helped me get through it. And I choose to do it. I think it's fascinating. And that's a resource. These books we're probably familiar with. I read, this is again Food as Medicine, specifically wheatgrass. Steve Meyerowitz's book has history, ancient history, recent history, pioneers in wheatgrass, what it is, what it does, how to grow it, how to drink it. It's very encyclopedic and a really good pitch. The books by Anne Wigmore, The Hippocrates Diet and Recipes for a Longer Life. Anne Wigmore, I'm not going to go too into it because we know, but she was ill. I can't really determine exactly what was her illness because I'm finding lots of different things, but basically sprouts, wheatgrass, live food. She healed herself and many others with this program. Good, raw, organic, sprouted, fermented, low fat, low sugar, bad, animal products, processed foods, cooked foods, modified vegetables. She talks about cleansing to detox and diet, not as a weight loss, but as a way of life for health, healing, and weight loss. The book has a lot of recipes and anecdotes. That's the Hippocrates Diet. Recipes for a Longer Life is a recipe book. It's this version that I have is beautiful. There's no pictures. It was really, when I read the book, it was just too weird. The recipes are weird and I couldn't get into it. But now, many years ago, it was too weird. Today, I come back to it and I'm like, that's interesting to me. I'm going to try it. Enzyme nutrition goes with this because it also speaks very specifically about enzymes. It's by Dr. Edward Howell, and it was a long time ago that I read it, but I remember distinctly being very disturbed by his theory that basically your body can't make enzymes, so when you run out of enzymes, you can't digest your food and you die. Whoa. It's out there.
Oh.
And that's why you should eat live food, because the live foods have their own enzymes and that will prolong your life. And I am probably oversimplifying, and possibly I misunderstood the book, but it's out there and is very adamant that you need to eat enzymes. But really, diet's a lot about weight loss. And this book, oh, when I found this book, I thought my journey was over. This is so wonderful. Foods that cause you to lose weight while you watch TV. This is like the greatest thing ever. Discover Power Dinners with the Negative Calorie Effect by Dr. Neil Barnard. He had patients who were overweight. His theory is that calorie restrictive diets slow your metabolism, and all you need to do is eat foods that the negative calorie effect basically says it uses more energy to break it down and store it as fat than other foods, so you're actually eating less calories than you think you are. It's a little bit. It has since been not adopted widely, and is it true? Is it false? I don't know, but it made me really happy. He says you should eat vegetables and complex carbs of any type, including whole grain products like bread and pasta. So I did. He says you should stay away from animal products, fats, fatty plants like olives, avocados, nuts, and seeds, and processed foods. He has references and citations for all of his claims. And his success stories were his own patients who, according to the stories, they either had previous diet binge experience and or had very poor eating habits to begin with. So they were eating fast food and fried food and a lot of really bad stuff. So I can see how, looking back, that this diet was very successful for them. However, I followed it and I didn't melt away to nothing. So I was thinking, why is this? And I come across this book, The Right Bite. Stephanie Dalbert McPhillips wrote this book because in her early youth, she had extreme eating disorder. She was anorexic and bulimic, and it was life-threatening. She decided that she didn't want to die. She became a nutritionist, and this book was written because of her clinical experience with patients. And she was testing theories as why do people binge eat? Why does this happen? In her theory, diets fail because they are insufficient in some way, either in calories or in nutrients, or previous bad eating can disrupt your metabolic process. If your metabolic digestive process has been damaged, it needs to be repaired. So in her book, she identifies these triggers that cause people to binge eat. There's a quiz, you can go through it. And then what's the right diet for you is the diet that addresses your triggers. And that's what this book is all about, trying to control your out of control urges, really. The plan involves a lot of measuring and weighing, and it's very rigorous because I didn't do it. I couldn't do it. It was really hard. If I had a life-threatening problem that I really needed to lose 200 pounds, I probably would have done it or put more energy into it. But what I took away from it was basically that metabolism is a process that can be disrupted. Or that's a thought, I should say. A thought that your metabolism, just because you stop bad behavior, doesn't mean everything goes back to normal. It means that maybe something's been damaged and you have to fix it. And also that the best diet for anyone will address your individual needs. So now, out of chronological order, I want to talk about another diet effect. This becomes so fascinating to me, how people are looking at what happens to food and where it goes in your body. So the metabolic effect is similar in that it says each person's individual biochemical reactions to exercise and food drive fat burning or fat storage. They agree with Stephanie, that extreme dieting can damage your hormonal communication system, which directs fat burning and storage, as well as feelings of hunger and satiety. In their model, they identify not 43 triggers, but types. They will categorize you in one of three types. You either are a sugar burner, or a muscle burner, or a mixed burner. And then the diet protocol that they would recommend is basically a ratio of carb to fat to protein, because you want to address whatever imbalance you have, because you don't want to be, what you want to be is burning fat. And that's what they're trying to get at. This is the only diet book that I've read that where exercise is not negotiable. So their program requires you to exercise. It's the spark that resets the metabolism along with the diet protocol. Cool, this is totally different. I call this a mystery book I can't find because it was a book that I read, but I didn't buy, and I don't remember what it was called. But it had a really profound effect on me when I read it at a sidewalk sale. This book was talking about, again, I picked it up, Carl, because it said weight loss, diet, so I want to read it. And it said that it started off with an experiment to prove that vegetarian diet was best. But when they looked at this group of people, some people did great. They looked great, you know, the bright eyes and good sleep, and they felt stronger, and they were like all about it. But there was a part of the group that did terribly. They really felt sick and they didn't look well. And there was a significant difference between group that did well and group that didn't do well. And we don't know the details of the experiment, how it was run, what they meant by vegetarian. You know, were they all eating fresh vegetables? I don't know. But in this book, they said, we wanted to look into this. Why did this happen? And the theory that they postulate is this, that digestive efficiency for human beings evolved along different paths depending on your culture, depending on what food was available to you, and depending on what was required for your survival where you were on planet Earth. And so this community, which is reproducing amongst itself and staying put, is now positively self-selecting these traits. Fast forward a couple million years, everybody's everywhere, everybody's everybody's kid, nobody's a purebred anymore. So now we don't know what to eat. And now we have all these diet books and all this craziness. So that was their theories, that what you have to do is figure out what you're designed to eat. Then I find this book called The Plan. Very non-technical, extremely simple. Lynn Janae is a holistic practitioner, and she works with her clients. She observes them, and her observations led her to the conclusion that weight gain is a result of inflammation. Her theory is that your digestive system is designed to eat certain things and not other things. And when you eat things that you're not designed to eat, you experience inflammation, which is presented as weight gain. And there you go. In her plan, her goal is to help you figure out what foods cause inflammation and what foods are safe. It's basically an elimination diet. And you do a base, you get your baseline, and then you add things in and you pay attention. You pay attention to how you feel, and you pay attention to the scale. And then once you have all that settled, you don't know, apparently it works for her clients very well. And I really thought that was a fascinating way of looking at things. Pretty simple. She does have, it is called a plan, and there is a recipe plan, and you can, I did go through it a little bit, but it's hard to do when you can't control everything that you're going to eat. Like if you're not home, you have to be, it's an experiment, and you have to be able to control your variables. And if you can't have the control, it's much harder to do. But I like the idea a lot. Thought that was very interesting. The Chinese system of food cures is next to instinctive health and inspired living because the Chinese system of food cures is literally a recipe book for medicine, but it illustrates how the Chinese don't look at food the way they don't look at protein, carbs, or fat, or this or that, or vitamins. They look at energy. And they're making these medicines based on energy that goes up, that goes down, that goes in, that goes out, that goes yin, that goes yang, that's hot and cold. It's totally incomprehensible to me, but very fascinating. And according to them, it works really well. So I come across this book because Leslie J. Rose is a friend of mine. So I bought her book. And this book is about a really bigger picture of eating, choosing what to eat based on the energetic properties, not only of the food, but also of your environment and the seasons. And her story, she was eating a certain diet and then she moved. Then she wasn't feeling well. And she's trying to figure out what's different. So her viewpoint is one of the whole, like, you, not just food in your mouth and your body, but you on earth, and how that all relates. Her point is to awaken your ability to instinctually tune into energy around you and the food you consume, how you feel after eating it, for better health and balance. This woman is a vegetarian, but she recommends that whatever you choose, make sure it's organic and whole and ethically treated and unprocessed, and include fermented foods in your diet. She recommends that you stay away from things that are refined, processed, conventional, or unhappy animal products. And there's lots of great quotes in Leslie's book from all different cultures and all different traditions. And here's one that I really like. When diet is wrong, medicine is of no use. When diet is right, medicine is of no need. This is about what I'm coming to see, which is the data and the story. And that is that data tells different people different stories. Even the same data tells different people different stories. The China study is a very famous study. It was a very comprehensive data collection project that spanned 20 years in the country of China. It is often it's mistaken for the book. The book is called the China Study. It is Dr. Campbell's analysis of the data. And he published his conclusions in a book called The China Study, which tells a story. And his conclusions are widely acclaimed and adopted, which basically plant-based diet, animals are bad. Eating animals is bad. That's a highly simplistic synopsis. And the Whole Foods Diet by John Mackey. I love Whole Foods Market. I shop there all the time. It's a very not controversial book that refers to the China study to back up basically his presentation, which is fine. But Denise Minger is a data analyst who I think was the first one to revisit the study and try to recreate the solution, the correlations that Dr. Campbell found, and she found something different. And she found that there was a far greater correlation between wheat consumption and disease than meat consumption and disease. And this discussion has now been reopened, and a lot of people are revisiting this data or the China study, to see, what does it mean? What does it mean? I read Wheat Belly. It scared me, but that's just me. Dr. Davis was inspired by his personal experience and health crisis. He was jogging and he was eating healthy. He was conscious, but his blood sugar was through the roof and he had this spare tire around his waist. He couldn't figure it out. And he says, the only thing I changed was I added a lot of whole grains to my diet. This book was inspired by him removing wheat from his diet and that of his patients and observing what happened to them. That not only did their blood sugar go down, but a lot of other things that were bothering them went away. And when he saw that, he said, I'm going to look into this. He looked into it and he wrote the book Wheat Belly. Basically, he's saying that modern wheat that we eat is nothing like the wheat that nature made, and it's highly toxic. And then the whole book goes in and explores that whole theory. Grain brain is sort of an offshoot of it, where they say that sugar and grains that contain gluten have long-term effects on the brain, are responsible for Alzheimer's, dementia, and other things. Okay, so now we're talking about conclusions based on observations. This is what I see. Here's the quote I'm putting in here, not because I believe it, but because this is what I read. The cornerstone of degenerative conditions, including brain disorders, is inflammation. That's a statement, basically a conclusion based on some observations, but is it a fact? I'm telling you, I don't know. What researchers are finding is that gluten and a high carbohydrate diet are among the most prominent stimulators of inflammatory pathways that reach the brain. That's interesting, but I know that it's not that I don't believe it, but it's that I'm open to more investigation there, because sometimes you find what you're looking for. This is the first book I read that said eating cholesterol and good fat was good for you. It's kind of controversial, but it's good. He claims that it's good for your brain health and your mental acuity. Oh, okay. And there's the Whole Foods diet and the China study by John Mackey. And there's a lot of very prominent other diet book people who've contributed and are featured in the Whole Foods diet. John Mackey was a counterculturist who moved into a vegetarian co-op to meet interesting people. And then the rest is history. His synopsis is eat more whole foods, eat fewer processed foods, eat more plants, and eat fewer animals. His opinion of wheat belly and grain brain is that it's dramatic hyperbole and does not, he actually addresses that and then says that he thinks wheat is perfectly fine. So but I want to just point out that as the co-founder and CEO of Whole Foods Market, it would be very problematic if he didn't say that, or if he said anything different. That is what I think. I mean, he may very well believe it, and a lot of people do. So,
Stickers.
in this Whole Foods diet, eating cholesterol is bad, eating fat contributes to heart disease. This is supported by Colin Campbell's book and findings of the China study. He acknowledges that modern and industrial produced meat is totally different than the meat that people were eating 100 years ago or 200 years ago. But otherwise, he doesn't really discuss the types of fat that he thinks people shouldn't eat or fat sources. He makes this statement that blue zone diets are notably low in saturated fat due to minimal animal foods. And there's no citation there. And I put that there specifically because there are other books that refer to blue zone diets that don't agree with that. And I think it's worth pointing that out, like this one. How are we doing? Wave to me if you're alive.
Very alive. You're doing great.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I'm so impressed. I'm like at the edge of my seat. Keep going.
So now we have Deep Nutrition by Dr. Catherine Shanahan. She was an elite athlete who used traditional foods to cure her own debilitating injuries. And she was living in Hawaii. She was trained as a nutritionist. And she says to herself, why is Hawaii the healthiest state in the United States when they're all eating this high cholesterol traditional diet? It bothered her. So she started investigating how could this possibly be? And the result is this book, Deep Nutrition. This is a big book. It's really thick. It's a scholarly tome. I didn't read the whole thing, but I read a lot of it, and it's fascinating. So she examines the blue zone diets. And unlike the previous author, she sees a pattern in all these blue zone diets all over the world. And the pattern that she sees is that there are 4 pillars that produce the healthiest children. And that's a new concept too. All these other books are talking about you. Now she's talking about your kids. What happens to your kids? Meat on the bone, fermented sprouted foods, organ meats and all parts, including blood, fat, and bone, and 4, fresh, unadulterated plant and animal products, including fresh eggs, raw milk, raw meat, and raw fish. This is all totally different. It's very similar and related to this book, Nourishing Traditions. Nourishing Traditions is a recipe book of traditional cultural recipes from all over the world. Sally Fallon wrote this book and collected these recipes, and she is a big fan of Dr. Weston Price. Dr. Weston Price was a dentist who traveled the world examining traditional people and how changing their diets and their lives affected their health and their children's health and appearance, with particular attention to their teeth. So people are living where they live and eating what they eat, and they've got these big, beautiful smiles, and then they move and they start eating different things, and the kids' teeth are messed up. They're all crowded. They've got cavities. It's weird. And he's totally fascinated by this, and he's written many books about it. This book, Nourishing Traditions, is both a recipe book and it reads like a Cliff Notes. In the sidebar, she has excerpts from Dr. Price's work, and she also has other citations for other studies that are done observing, how food affects this or that. Is it true? Is it not? It's just an observation. You can only, you can take this dot and draw a line, but it just all really it's fascinating. And I included a picture of the 2009 edition of Dr. Price's book, which I haven't read, but it's called Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. And there it is. And both of these books have tons of references. Oh, you'll never tire of looking up all this research. It'll keep you busy for the rest of your life. Oh, the other thing about Sally that she talks about is politics. She talks about politics and influence and how politics influences what the government is telling people and what the like public knowledge or understanding of what is healthy and what is not healthy. There's another story there. Which is why I included this book, which is all about coconuts. And if you love coconut, you're going to love this book. But it starts out with politics and marketing, and how there was a war on coconut oil, and how public policy and lobbying there are other factors that actually influence the material and the information that we may or may not be exposed to as far as what's healthy and what is not. Totally fascinating. Coconut Fan Club, Dr. Fife. I love this book. The citations are in the back, not in the text, which I think makes it read more like fan fiction than a scholarly book, but I really liked it. I don't know. And coconut oil is a natural sunscreen. I use it. I think it works. I've never burned. But again, that's just me. And finally, we have 2 cookbooks. Ketogenic Cooking. I found this book because of this book. So this book is telling me, oh, well, you need to eat a less carb, a low carb, and less protein, fat. Okay, great. So I'm looking it up. What do I do? And I find this book. Maria Emmerich has written so many cookbooks, and this is her story. She was inspired by her own personal health crisis. As she was a young woman, she had irritable bowel syndrome and acid reflux to the point where she couldn't even drink water. She goes to the doctor, and the doctor says, oh, I'm going to give you this medicine and that medicine, da, 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 da. And she's thinking, I don't really want to do that. And she said, suddenly I remembered when I took my dog to the vet, the first thing the vet asked me was, what are you feeding the dog? How come none of my doctors ask me what I'm feeding myself? And that's how that started. She studies nutrition. She works with clients. She was working with diabetics and metabolic syndrome patients who were not responding to low carb, low sugar diets. Their sugar was still through the roof. So she says, as a nutritionist, I had learned in school that excess protein cannot be stored by the body and is converted to glucose. So maybe what we need to do is lower the protein as well. What do we go? Low carb, moderate protein, high fat. She tried it, and for her clients, it worked. So that was her observation, and she went into this ketogenic lifestyle, which is a high fat, moderate protein, low carb diet. The book is beautiful. The pictures are beautiful. She accommodates many different dietary concerns. The recipes are listed as gluten-free, no nut, vegetarian, vegan, lacto, ovo, paleo. I mean, she is very thorough. The beginning of the book has nice charts about all the different sources of fats and what technically kind of fat it is, whether it's good for cooking, whether it's good for salads. I mean, I thought it's so cool, and I like the pictures. Oh, they're really beautiful. And I'm going to finish with this one, which I haven't gotten into yet, but it's a cookbook with no cooking. This book reminds me of Rebecca. Organic Avenue, Recipes Made for Life, Made with Love. Denise Mari became a vegan because of yoga. She was moved by the precept, do no harm. And this book has juice recipes and cleanse plans and other salad recipes, no cooking. Some recipes require a dehydrator. So I'm looking forward to that when I get a dehydrator. And it's beautiful. So thank you, Rebecca, for bringing me to this point. I am so happy, and I hope you all really got something out of this book share, and it's going to help you think about the next book that you're going to read. That's it.
Beyond amazing.
That was really great. I agree.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. I did a bunch of screenshots. I gotta get reading now. There were a few books that you had that I hadn't read.
And I cut out like another 2 hours of material, so you're welcome.
Quite a journey.
Then we'll have to do another session. Do the rest of the books.
So I'm really interested in I didn't even go into like movies that you can watch or, other courses that you can, I mean, there's so much out there, so much. And I'm really interested in the things that other people have read because I need more.
Definitely good stuff. Thank you, Eva.
Would anybody like to share? I mean, I know that it's late, so we could maybe leave it at just Eva's amazing share, which was a lot of books to absorb. Also, maybe people are silent because you covered a lot of the big ones. There could be an aspect to that because I would say I don't know how much I even have to share. I mean, my mom would be a really good person for this topic because she has read a lot of books and she loves to share about books. So we'll have her come on and do her little spiel on the books that she's read, and that's her specialty. But I'm curious, I have a lot of like different topics. I have a lot of books as well, but a lot of it more of is mindset and spirituality, which to me still are very related, but a lot of my books are mindset, spirituality. But to stay on the topic of food, does anybody have any blaring books that they feel that they want to share that's on the top of their mind? Otherwise, we can for sure have another class on this.
I've got a couple ideas.
Okay, let's hear them.
I have not read as many books as Eva has. I am really really amazed. That's a lot of reading. The two books that I want to bring to mind right now are Dr. Greer's How Not to Die, Discover the Food Scientifically Proven to Prevent and Reverse Disease. What he does, he lists the 15 top killer diseases, and he shows how the whole food plant-based diet can reverse just about all of it if we abstain from the meat, the dairy, and the oil. I liked what you said, Eva, about some ideas challenging the findings of the China study, especially the wheat. I know that I just got back from Tanzania myself, and what I cannot do here in the States is eat rice more than 2 meals in a row because it just destroys me, right? I wind up with all kinds of issues. But while I was in Tanzania, we had rice for lunch and again for dinner, and I had no issues. So I think there's something not just about the rice, but there's something about the wheat too, because we had bread every day, and I can't do that here either. I think it's the way that we process it. You mentioned politics in a couple of the books there. I think that's a big part of it. The way we're harvesting our food here. I think the glyphosate has a lot to do with it because it's a drying agent and helps them harvest these foods early and dry them quickly and put them away for storage so they don't spoil. But I think that has a big influence. One of the books you mentioned talked about raw meat and raw fish, raw milk, raw eggs, etc. I know there's a lot of problems with parasites in raw foods, raw meats, let's be clear. The Japanese are famous for their sushi, but they have a very high incidence of liver flukes, a particular parasite that lives in the liver. Here in the States, we get a lot of people that like to hunt venison and eat that. Well, we've all heard that pork, when it's not properly cooked, has a problem with trichinosis. That's a parasite that's in the meat. It lays cysts within our muscles, and that's quite painful. But the trichinosis is also present in the wild venison, elk, deer, moose, etc. So there's things to be considered there. I'm of the mindset, spiritual mindset, that we should not be eating critters. So I'm protected from those parasites now, but I used to eat meat before. So, but in Dr. Greger's book, he shows that by eating the whole food plant-based diet, no meat, no dairy, no oil, that most of the modern day diseases are reversed. Well, over time, but most people, even those people who are severely sick and on heavy medication to control their disease, within 3 weeks, what they're showing is that these people, if they follow this whole food plant-based thing religiously, they can get off their meds in 3 weeks. But he cautions people, please work with your prescribing physicians, right? Because there's different medications require tapering down, that sort of thing. So the next book is the 80-10-10 diet. We had Dr. Graham on here. He did his presentation. I think it's a brilliant book. I think it's a great read. And it covers aspects of meat and dairy that Dr. Greger doesn't even touch upon. So another great book, and it talks about the natural diet. And there was a controversial statement that you mentioned, Eva, about that was a conclusion of one of the authors that you were telling us about. So I'm not saying it's your conclusion, it's his. I believe it was a him. Let's see. That I think it was the wheat being more of a problem than the meat. And I would agree that the wheat is a big problem. I mean, it's not a natural food for humans to consume. We've been doing it for millennia, but it doesn't mean that it's right, you know? I mean, we all know there's smokers out there and they can smoke for 40 years and not get cancer necessarily, but it, again, it doesn't mean that it's right. So, anyway, I think those are the biggest points that I wanted to bring out in the two books that I really wanted to share about. But yeah,
Okay,
thanks.
cool. Thank you so much, Rick. That was awesome. I was just taking notes on because I took pictures on Eva's slides, even though this is going to be recorded and posted on YouTube for sure. Those of you who are on my Facebook group, that's usually where I post the link to it. And I have to make a better system for that, but you'll find it if you ask. Rick
Oh,
also will send a replay through the email of those who registered. What did you want to say, Rick?
yeah, sorry. I slipped. I misquoted. It was the one about carbohydrates, high carbohydrate diet being a contributor to inflammation. And I think that has to be singled out, that the high carbohydrate that is causing that problem is heavy starch foods like the wheat, like the tubers, like potatoes, etc. So sorry, that's the one point I couldn't seem to remember what it was, but it just came to me when you were summarizing.
Okay,
Thanks.
cool. So I have a list of some of the books I like. Yeah, what you said about How Not to Die, and 80-10-10. The only other one that I would want to add is Survival in the 21st Century by Victoria Skolvinskis, which y'all know is a favorite of mine, just because it's like so ahead of its time, and it's literally was written in the 70s about today and like couldn't be more true. So it's like a little bit prolific. And I think that's it for tonight because I want to let everyone go home, go to sleep, and have a peaceful night. However, next week is a little bit of a less structured class, unless Akoshua, you feel like you have a very big structure that you want to share. Do you have a very structured class that you'd like to share, or should we have kind of like a layover next week of some more book shares and more sharing next week in people's journeys? What do you think, Akoshua? And maybe it'll be a combo of both. You're on mute.
Am I still on mute?
No, you're good now.
We can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay, as far as being structured, I'm not that. I just have stuff that I want to say about my kind of life journey to health, staying healthy, kind of. Um, I definitely do not have a lot of books. Um,
Okay, good.
not against
So,
books. I have a I have a I don't know if you call it a reading disability or something. I really need to have audiobooks. Um, Not that I can't read, I have the ability to read, but it probably takes me like 10 times more longer than anyone else to read something, and then again to absorb it and understand what it says. But I know that audiobooks are like the thing for me. I've tried it a
okay, good.
little, and
Good.
Me too.
but I just
Yeah, I just want to say that so what we'll do next week is we'll have you speak for maybe like 10 minutes about your story, and we'll then continue,
okay.
and then we'll then continue on this discussion. So those of you
Yeah, I kind of needed a time limit in my
Yeah, I think a
feeling.
good 10 minutes or so,
10
and
minutes. Okay.
sounds good. Yeah, and then we'll continue on the discussion from tonight, which is bring in your books, and it can lay over. And then what I would like to do by the end of next week is to determine maybe a book that we would like to read, whether we make it be something that we read together for the next month, or we'll figure out what we want to do with that. But I think this is a really good opportunity for us to determine one book that we all kind of, maybe we can even say a common underscoring book that we all read that we really like. This way, that's something that we can really like promote and make sure is on my Perfect Foods bookshelf. And then also determine one that we would like to read together. And that may have to be led by somebody who already read it, but that's what I would like to do. So we'll have an ongoing list. We'll review the list that Eva shared with us this week, and we'll continue on with it next week. Does that sound good, guys?
Sure.
Sounds good.
Amazing. All right, my friends, this is becoming a really fun evening activity. So I hope you all are enjoying, and you have a peaceful evening, and I will see you all next week. Thank you for coming and giving us your Wednesday night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Becca. Thanks,
Everybody.
Eva.
Thank you so
Good night,
much. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna unmute and say thanks.
great.
Thanks, Jamie. Thanks all the Rebeccas in the room that aren't really Rebeccas. Kim, Elaine,
I noticed that.
Yeah.
Rick, Akoshua, and of course, oh my gosh, how could I not give a huge, huge, huge thank you to Eva.
Thank you, Eva.
That
Eva.
was so
Thank
above
you
and
so
beyond
much.
what I could have ever imagined. Seriously, I'm very excited to share this class with other people.
Yay.
You know that. Do you know how amazing that was? I hope you know.
It was amazing, Miss Eva. You should know that.
I'm so glad you liked it. I was really worried. I practiced it. I thought it was too long. I didn't want it to be boring or offensive. I'm so glad that you liked it.
What I love,
Great. It was great.
actually, I don't know if anybody wants to share what they liked about it or any reflections on the class, because it was kind of monumental. I'll tell you why. Because it was so
No, I'm on it too.
it was
Don't just leave it there. You'll never use it again.
Jamie.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry, I'm multitasking. as
Of course you
can
are.
hear.
Superhuman.
Open mic.
Yeah.
Let's
Sorry,
have
open
fun.
mic. I'll
Open
mute
mic.
myself. Sorry.
Fine. Next week is karaoke. So I just want to say that I feel like it was really monumental, or I don't know if I'm using the right word, but iconic, whatever words you want to say, because the way that you discussed each book so like detached from it, but just from a matter of fact of this was their message, whether it's true or it's not true, this was their message. And this is the message that I took from it in a 1-sentence summary of an entire like 200-page book. I felt like that was really valuable. And also for somebody who has read so many books, it's interesting to me that you landed here, right? I mean, I can't say that I'm shocked, but it is definitely a noteworthy statement that you have read all of those books and have come to the place of, okay, eating raw fruits and vegetables and having wheatgrass and trying these raw recipes is like where you're landing now. Not to say that that's where you're going to be in a year from now, but that's just where you are now. And that's great. And I just love the subjective perspective, because I think that that's what we need now more than ever. Not coming at it with judgment, not coming at it with preachiness, just knowledge. And I really want to, that's exactly the energy that I want to be bringing to this group. Not you have to be doing this, but this is what I've learned and this is what we should discuss and see what's right for you. I love that. So I think it's totally aligned and it has a lot of potential for a lot of people to want to know this knowledge that you just shared. So this recording video is gold, and you should keep, we want to learn more. I think that you now officially have a following. So we'll see what else comes from you. Okay.
Yep.
This was just the beginning.
Thank
Anybody
you.
else have anything that they want to share?
That's good.
It was good. 2 thumbs up. Okay.
It was
Good
good.
night, my
It
friends.
was good. Okay. Night.
Good night, all.